You work hard, you save, and you dream. Then one day you finally buy that motorcycle you've been eyeing for months. But instead of freedom and fun, what you get is a financial black hole. Some motorcycles are not just bad, they are money-hating machines. They break often. They need parts no one sells. They are comfortable only if you have a spine of iron. And worst of all, when you try to sell them, no one wants them. This is not about bashing brands. This is about protecting your wallet and your sanity. If you love money, these are the bikes to avoid. Number 15, Renegade Commando. If you've never heard of you're not alone. United Motors came onto the scene promising American-styled cruisers for under $4,000, and the Renegade Commando was supposed to be the crown jewel. A badass military-inspired bike that oozed attitude for budget riders. But what riders actually got was a cosplay bike held together with hope and sticky tape. Let's talk performance, or the lack of it. Under the tank lies a 223cc single-cylinder engine that wheezes out just 16 horsepower. Twist the throttle and you'll be passed by mopeds, bicycles, and retired grandpas walking briskly. And the torque? It's hiding somewhere in the Himalayas, because you won't find it here. Now, build quality? Where do we even start? Riders report welding cracks, mirrors that spin loose on the highway, speedometers that stop working randomly, and paint that fades in the shade. The seat padding feels like a tray of loose change wrapped in vinyl. And the vibration? It will numb your soul. What makes it worse is the service situation. Barely has any parts support, and good luck finding a mechanic who knows what to do with it. One poor rider said, "My throttle cable snapped in the first month. Told me to wait 8 weeks for a replacement. I walked more than I rode. Sure, it looks cool in photos. Sure, it's cheap. But ride one and you'll understand. This bike is a catfish on wheels." Thanks for coming this far. Subscribe to join our amazing bikers community. Have you ever seen a bike that looks like it rolled straight out of a 70s outlaw film, but somehow still purrs like a modern machine? There's one that slips under the radar, but once you hear it growl, you never forget it. Yamaha didn't just build this one, they gave it a soul, but the soul was dark. Number 14, Yamaha Verago 535. Let's take a ride back to the late 1980s and early 90s, a time when the Yamaha Verago 535 was everywhere. People loved it. Lightweight, affordable, easy to ride. It seemed like the perfect first cruiser. And with a V-twin engine, low seat height, and shiny chrome, it had that big bike look for beginner money. But oh, the pain that came after. Ask anyone who's owned one for longer than a season, and you'll hear the same story. Electrical nightmare. The infamous starter clutch problem on the Verago isn't just an inconvenience. It's a legend. You'll press the button, and instead of a clean crank, you'll get the infamous whirring click of shame. It's a problem so common that owners started keeping mallets and hammers in their saddlebags to smack the starter into working. And while we're talking electrics, the regulator rectifier is a serial offender. It fails often, it fails quietly, and it can fry your whole electrical system if you're not paying attention. Fun, right? But wait, there's more. The rear suspension is a single shock tucked underneath, and it is famously soft. If you're over 160 pounds, it feels like riding a pogo stick through a pothole festival. Combined with narrow tires and an awkward rake, the handling is more point and pray than lean and carve. Yes, parts are somewhat available. And yes, there are people who love this bike. If you think you know frustration, then I can show you a dream that's a nightmare. A nightmare with sexy street styling. Number 13, Triumph Triton 660. On paper, the Triumph Triton 660 is a dream. It's light, it's modern, it's got that British bad boy attitude and a glorious triple-cylinder sound that could make angels cry. With sexy naked street styling and a price tag just under $8,000 brand new, it looks like the smartest buy in the middleweight segment. But if you think this is a beginner-friendly budget screamer that's going to give you years of carefree fun, you're in for a shock, literally. The Triton's biggest sin is this. It promises simplicity, but comes loaded with complex electronics that fail too early and too often. Owners across forums have reported electrical glitches, random stalling while riding, and inconsistent throttle response. Issues that aren't just annoying but can be dangerous when they happen in traffic. And let's not forget about the throttle-by-wire system, which can suddenly throw an error, lock you out of riding modes, or cause the bike to lose power mid-corner. If you've never experienced that, just imagine whispering, "Oh no," into your helmet while you pray you're not leaning too far. Now add in dealer wait times for parts, and you've got yourself a modern bike with the maintenance mood swings of a vintage British motorcycle. Triumph has improved reliability in recent years, yes, but the Triton 660 seems to be stuck in the middle. Not old enough to be vintage fun, not refined enough to be true modern reliability. One owner reported multiple trips to the dealership for wiring harness issues within the first 3,000 miles, only to be told, it's a known issue. Imagine paying for a nearly new motorcycle and being told the quirks are part of the charm. While the price is low, the maintenance? Not so much. Oil changes and basic service can cost twice what you'd pay on a Japanese equivalent, and unless you've got a certified Triumph mechanic nearby, you're at the mercy of the dealership network. So if you want a bike that looks like a middleweight legend but behaves like a moody ex, the Triton is calling your name. And back to Japanese bikes, there is one that sounds like a spaceship, runs like a blender, and will burn more cash than ever. Number 12. Suzuki RE5 Wonkle. Now this is a bike that collectors whisper about and mechanics cackle over. The Suzuki RE5 Wonkle, launched in the mid-1970s, was supposed to be a revolution. A rotary-powered two-wheel rocket, futuristic and bold, promising smooth power delivery and nearly vibration-free performance. And while it may have looked like the future, it turned out to be a luxury problem with a Suzuki logo. Let's get this straight. The Wonkle engine is cool. It revs smooth, has fewer moving parts, and sounds like a jet engine taped to a vacuum cleaner. But cool doesn't always mean practical. And in this case, it meant the bike was hot, too hot. Literally. The RE5 had massive overheating issues. Even with a fan and an oil cooler, the engine could roast itself on a summer day sitting in traffic. Combine that with exotic engineering, low production numbers, and a parts network that's now pretty much limited to dusty garages in Germany and eBay, and you've got a maintenance nightmare with a fancy badge. Let's talk about parts. Need a new rotor seal? You might have to machine one from scratch. Want to rebuild the carb? Hope you've got the original repair manual and a time machine. Even spark plugs are hard to come by, and forget finding someone who actually knows how to tune one properly. Oh, and fuel economy? Hey, this thing drinks gas like it's partying in Las Vegas and eats two-stroke oil like breakfast cereal. You're lucky to get 30 miles per gallon, and oil consumption is a feature, not a bug. And yes, it's collectible. You might even find a clean one for around $7,000. But unless you plan on keeping it parked under glass and starting it only for YouTube videos, do not expect daily usability. One brave owner said, "It's like dating a genius who sets fire to your house once a month." Amazing to talk about, terrifying to live with. So unless you're ready to learn rotary engine theory from scratch and own 3 donor bikes just to keep one running, this isn't your weekend fun machine, it's your full-time project. Now there's a next bike that's small, it's light, and somehow still manages to leave owners swearing louder than its exhaust note. Number 11. KTM RC390. The KTM RC390, a bike that screams performance. It looks fast, just standing still, sharp angles, aggressive ergonomics, lightweight chassis, a single-cylinder heart pumping out more attitude than some bikes with double the capacity. On paper, this thing should be the perfect starter sport bike. Affordable, fun, easy to ride. But dig just a little deeper and you'll find a world of frustration hiding under that orange plastic. Let's start with the good stuff, because yes, there is some. The RC390 is quick, flickable, and fun when it's working right. At around $6,000 new, it offers race-bred styling and specs for a fraction of the price of most sport bikes. And that's where KTM gets you, because you fall in love fast. But the reliability gremlins show up even faster. This bike is known for random stalling, wiring gremlins, sensor failures, and the infamous overheating nightmares, even on brand new models. The fan kicks in constantly, Radiator hoses have been known to fail, and many riders have reported their bikes going into limp mode or throwing fault codes before the first oil change. And speaking of oil, this thing burns through it like popcorn at a movie theater. Owners frequently check their oil every few hundred miles because running low can happen faster than expected. The electronics package is modern but finicky. You get TFT displays, ABS, and ride-by-wire, which is nice. But when those systems glitch, and they will, you're stuck at the mercy of dealer backlogs, shortages, and warranty headaches. It's not uncommon to hear, "We'll need to order that part from Austria." And let's not even start on rear subframe vibrations, fuel pump issues, and clutch slave cylinder failures. These are not rumors. These are experiences from real owners who thought they were getting a bargain sport bike and instead got a service light that never goes off. So yes, it's fast, it's fun, and it's the kind of bike you fall in love with on a test ride. But if you plan to ride it hard and keep it long, you'd better budget for breakdowns. If you've gotten this far, kindly like and subscribe for more videos like this. Before you fall out of love, there might be a replacement you might have thought of that's even worse. It promised the world to ADV fans, then forgot how to climb a hill. Number 10, Royal Enfield Himalayan. Now here's a bike that caused quite a stir when it hit the scene. The Royal Enfield Himalayan was pitched as the people's adventure bike, a no-nonsense, go-anywhere machine with rugged styling, low price, and a ready-to-ride attitude straight out of the crate. For under $5,500, it looked like the ultimate budget explorer. But oh boy, if you're planning to cross continents on one of these, pack a toolkit and a prayer book. Let's start with the promise. Long travel suspension, spoked wheels, a comfortable upright seating position, simple air-cooled engine. It sounded like the perfect answer to the overpriced, over-computerized 8Vs flooding the market. And to be fair, in ideal conditions, the Himalayan delivers a pretty chill experience. But the moment you start pushing it, that's when the regrets start rolling in. The early models were plagued by fuel pump failures, stalling issues, instrument cluster malfunctions, and frame cracking at weld points. You read that right? Frame cracking, not something you want to discover halfway up a mountain pass in Nepal or New Mexico. Owners have also reported consistent problems with rusting exhausts, bent wheels from minor rocks, and wiring shorts after moderate rainfall. It's as if the bike is allergic to adventure. The 5-speed transmission? Clunky. The brakes? Adequate on paper but fade quickly under load. And don't even start with the power. With a top speed that barely scratches 70 miles per hour, highway travel feels more like survival than touring. One rider said, "I wanted to ride the Himalayas. Instead, I spent more time fixing the Himalayan." To their credit, Royal Enfield has made improvements in newer versions, but the stigma remains. And if you pick up a used model, you're rolling the dice on a frame that might be more patched than bike. Yes, it looks like a minimalist's dream, but when it leaves you stranded with a dead batteries in the middle of nowhere, and parts take 4 weeks to arrive, you'll be wondering if that extra $2,000 for a Honda was the better move. Number 9, Yamaha TX750. Back in the early 70s, Yamaha had a bold idea: build a parallel twin engine that could rival the smoothness of a 4-cylinder. Enter the Yamaha TX750, a handsome, torquey machine that made all the right promises: comfort, performance, and reliability. It was Yamaha's grand attempt to make a modern, smooth-running twin that could handle long-distance cruising while remaining affordable. And to be fair, it almost worked. But almost doesn't count when your engine is cooking itself from the inside out. The TX750 had a fatal flaw baked right into its design: an overly ambitious balancer shaft system that was supposed to tame the natural vibration of the twin-cylinder layout. The problem? It also created serious heat buildup in the bottom end of the engine. And when you've got boiling oil, crankshaft flex, and fragile bearings, it's only a matter of time before the internals start singing the song of death. One of the most reported issues? Oil foaming. As the engine heats up, oil aerates, which leads to poor lubrication and failing bearings, especially on long rides. What begins as a smooth, confidence-inspiring machine ends with a loud knocking sound that signals it's game over. But that's not all. The electrical system on early models was notoriously twitchy. The charging system couldn't keep up, and regulators often failed, leaving riders stranded with a dead battery in the middle of nowhere. That's not just inconvenient, that's a recipe for adventure turned emergency. And let's talk about parts. Finding them today isn't impossible, but it's far from easy. Many components require specialized knowledge or custom fabrication. In other words, if you're not already friends with a vintage Yamaha mechanic, you're about to make one out of desperation. So while it may be a collectible now, the TX750 is a perfect example of a bike that promised the world and then melted under pressure. There is a German masterpiece with high-tech charm and a maintenance bill that will make your wallet cry for help. Number 8, BMW G310 GS. The BMW G310 GS came in hot as BMW's answer to the entry-level adventure market. It had the badge, it had the look, it had the promise of German engineering at a beginner-friendly price, around $5,700. It screamed, "I'm ready for the world." But once the initial shine wore off, what many riders discovered was a bike that tries to be everything and struggles to be anything. First off, the power. With a 310cc single-cylinder engine, you're not getting much grunt. That's fine if you're a new rider, but call it an adventure bike, and it better be able to adventure. Unfortunately, the G310 GS can feel sluggish on the highway and wheezy on hills, especially with luggage or a passenger. Then there's the build quality. Despite the BMW badge, this bike is built in India by TVS, and while that partnership has some positives, early production models were plagued by fit and finish issues, rear brake problems, and vibrations that made riders feel like human maracas. Owners have also complained about long wait times for warranty work, even on simple parts. One rider said, "I waited 3 weeks for a clutch cable." 3 weeks. It's not a total disaster, but it's far from what you'd expect from a BMW. If you're chasing the badge without the budget, you'll get the badge, but the experience might just break your spirit and your schedule. And speaking about breaking your spirit, there is a sleek Italian machine that's lightning on the streets and thunder in your mechanic's invoice book. Number 7, Ducati Monster 696. Few bikes wear style and attitude as effortlessly as this one. The curves, the stance, the sound. It whispers to your inner rebel, your wannabe cafe racer, your cool alter ego. And for just under $7,500, it's the cheapest way to own a Ducati. But let me tell you something real. Owning this affordable monster is like dating a supermodel with anger issues. Everything starts off amazing until the drama kicks in. Let's talk about maintenance. Despite its simplicity on paper, air-cooled L-twin, no fancy electronics, the Desmo service intervals are no joke. Valve adjustments come sooner than you'd like, and they're not cheap. Miss one, and you're looking at engine trouble that will haunt your dreams. And don't think that cheaper Ducati means cheap to own. Parts prices are still premium. One clutch lever? More expensive than a whole set from a Japanese brand. Want to do basic service? You'll need specialized tools. Then there's the comfort. The ride is firm, the bars are low, and if you're not in the best shape, the Monster will remind you every 10 miles that you're not a 20-year-old track star. One owner wrote, "The Monster made me feel alive. Then it made my wallet feel dead." There is a sleek, naked bike from Japan that lures in new riders like candy and leaves them begging for better suspension and fewer chiropractor visits. Number 6, Honda CB300R. At first glance, the Honda CB300R is a dream come true for new riders. Lightweight, stylish, reliable. And for around $5,000 brand new, it feels like a total steal. It's part of Honda's Neo Sports Cafe line, so it comes with modern design, full LED lighting, and even upside-down forks, which sounds impressive on a budget-friendly bike. But once you spend more than a few weeks in the saddle, you start to realize something's missing. That something is rideability over time. The CB300R is light to a fault, tipping in at just over 340 pounds wet. It gets thrown around by crosswinds, feels twitchy at higher speeds, and doesn't give you the same planted confidence as its slightly heavier siblings. The engine, while peppy in the city, runs out of breath fast. Take it on the highway, and you'll be wide open on the throttle just trying to keep up with traffic. It'll do it, but it won't like it. Neither will you. And then there's the seat. It's about as plush as a wooden bench at a bus stop in February. Long rides? You'll need a chiropractor on speed dial. One rider summed it up perfectly. I bought it because it looked like a mini CB1000. I kept it because it was cheap. I sold it because my spine begged me to. And about chiropractors on speed dial, there's this bike that comes with American muscle, legendary status, and a reliability score that will make you flinch. Number 5. Harley-Davidson Street 500. You'd think that a Harley-Davidson for around $7,000 would be a steal, right? A proper cruiser, V-twin, that sweet rumble. But the Harley-Davidson Street 500 is a lesson in why badges can be deceiving. On the surface, it looks like a solid entry-level bike for someone chasing the Harley dream. But once you ride it a while, reality hits, and it's not exactly a smooth ride. Let's start with the engine. The Revolution X 500cc V-twin feels dead below 3,000 RPM, then wakes up just in time to deliver buzzy, unrefined power. It doesn't have that signature Harley feel. Instead, it's more like a budget generator with attitude. It's built to a price, and you'll feel every corner they cut. The suspension is awful, especially in the rear. Hit a pothole and your spine will remember it forever. The brakes are passable, but not confidence-inspiring. And the overall build quality? Let's just say some owners have had foot pegs fall off while riding. And don't forget, this bike was built in India for global markets, which isn't inherently bad, but when you're buying into the Harley legacy, you expect American steel, not a bike that feels like a parts bin experiment. One owner put it bluntly, it looked like a Harley. It rode like a scooter with an attitude problem. There was once a great name in the sport bike world that got rebooted with a thud and more recalls than riding days. Number 4. Kawasaki Ninja 250 SL. You hear Kawasaki Ninja and immediately picture a sleek, fast, adrenaline-pumping machine that dominates twisty roads and racetracks. But the Kawasaki Ninja 250 SL? Well, it kind of whispers Ninja and then apologizes for being there. This ultra-lightweight, single-cylinder sport bike came out promising nimble city riding, great fuel economy, and a price tag just under $4,000. It's slim, it's sharp, and yes, it does look the part. But if you're expecting a full-blooded Ninja experience, you're in for a tame time. This bike is too light for its own good. Weighing just over 300 pounds, it gets tossed around in the wind like a plastic bag. It might be agile, but that agility comes at the cost of any real road presence. On the highway, it feels like a buzzing mosquito trying to hang with hawks. You'll hit the throttle hard and get passed by soccer moms sipping iced coffee in minivans. Power, 28 horsepower. That's less than most lawnmowers with racing dreams. And the torque? Well, don't expect any. You'll be working that gearbox harder than a bartender during happy hour. But the real issue is comfort and ergonomics. The seat is narrow, the bars are low, and the bike feels like it was designed for an action figure, not a full-grown human. Tall riders especially will feel like they're racing on a stick of gum. One owner said, "It was my first bike. It taught me how to ride. Then it taught me how to walk funny after every ride." Now we're almost at the end of the video. Have your worst bikes been mentioned yet? Maybe they're still coming up. Kindly support us by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Thank you. Now, if you thought these bikes have been really bad, wait till you see the top 3. These are bikes that have been wrapped up and presented to the public with a nice image, but they will destroy your pocket and your patience. First of them is an actual custom-style bobber. Number 3, Cleveland CycleWorks Heist. If you ever dreamed of owning a cool, low-slammed custom-style bobber, but didn't want to spend 10 grand, the Cleveland CycleWorks Heist probably caught your eye. On paper, it's got all the right buzzwords: hardtail look, chopper stance, nostalgic appeal, and a price tag under $4,000. But ride it more than once and you'll quickly realize this bike is all image and no integrity. Let's begin with reliability. The 230cc Chinese-made engine is noisy, underpowered, and needs constant babysitting. Some users report engine stalls in mid-ride, Others say the carb floods randomly, and a few brave souls claim they've seen parts rusting after just 1 week in a garage. Yes, rusting indoors. Then there's the handling, or rather, the lack of it. The front forks feel like they're filled with maple syrup, and the frame flexes like it's made of spaghetti. Once you pass 55 miles per hour, the bike shakes like it's being exorcised. Owners call it a good beginner bobber, but what they really mean is, I wanted to look cool, and now I regret everything. One rider said, I bought it for the style. I sold it because it wouldn't start. Ever. And then there's support. There is also a retro-modern Japanese machine with a loyal cult following and one major flaw that might ruin your dream garage. Number 2, Yamaha SR400. On paper, the Yamaha SR400 is a classic lover's dream. Retro styling, spoked wheels, a thumping single-cylinder engine, minimal electronics. It's the kind of bike that looks like it rode straight out of a postcard from 1978. And that's part of its appeal. It's charming, it's simple, it's nostalgic. But if you're thinking about owning one in 2025, you better love kickstarting and hunting for parts, because the SR400 isn't here to make life easy. Let's talk about power or the lack thereof. With only 24 horsepower, this bike is fine for city cruising, but terrible for anything else. Take it on the highway and you'll feel like a tumbleweed with a license plate. Twist the throttle and that's about it. You're already going as fast as it can. And here's a fun feature. No electric start on older models. You heard that right. It's kickstart only. Miss your first kick? Get ready for the second. And the third. Maybe the fourth. Hope you didn't skip leg day. Comfort? Let's just say the seat looks better than it feels, especially on rides longer than 30 minutes. And don't expect modern suspension or smooth handling. It's a back-to-basics experience, and sometimes back-breaking too. Owners admit it's beautiful and fun when it works, but keeping it working is another story. Parts are increasingly hard to find. Maintenance is frequent, and unless you're into carburetor tuning, you might want to stay far, far away. One rider put it best, I loved it until I had to start it uphill in the rain. Then I sold it, and now for the number 1. You might be wondering which bike could be the worst of all these mentioned? What could be worse than this Yamaha? Brace yourself. Number 1, Vespa GTS 300. Let's stop sugarcoating things. The Vespa GTS 300 might just be the most overpriced disaster on two wheels today. Sure, it looks like a dream. It's got that sleek, rounded Italian design, all the aesthetic appeal of a vintage Roman holiday. But once you get past the pretty face, what you're left with is a scooter that's reliability challenged, ridiculously overpriced, and more interested in being pampered than ridden. The price is a laughable $7,000 or more. That's right, for a scooter that can barely hit 80 miles per hour, if you're lucky, and only when the wind is blowing at your back. What you're paying for is a name and a look, not performance, not engineering, and certainly not reliability. The engine, a 278cc single-cylinder, does its best in the city, but the moment you ask it for anything more, it wheezes like an old man running upstairs. The throttle response is sluggish. The acceleration? Only impressive if you're racing garden. But let's talk about the real pain, the build quality. This scooter is wrapped in all-metal body panels, which sounds luxurious until you realize that every tiny scratch turns into a body shop nightmare. Drop it once, and you're facing a 4-figure repair bill for a dent. And don't think plastic parts are cheap either. Mirrors, switchgear, and cables are all ridiculously priced for what they are. Then there's the reliability. Starter motor failures, electrical issues, stalling in hot weather, and random sensor glitches plague owners, often right out of the dealership. And the worst part? Piaggio's warranty support is infamously unresponsive. Riders are often left stranded, told to wait 2 to 3 weeks for basic parts, with local dealers doing little more than shrugging. One poor owner wrote, "It spent more time in my garage in the dealership than on the street. I wanted Italian class. I got Italian chaos." There's another video coming up on your screen right now. You ready? Click on it and let's go. Make sure to like and subscribe.